everybody, this is Keith Gleason, host of Indie Comics Relay, creator of the Mighty Mascots, and promoter for the Plastic City Comic Con. And I just wanted to jump in here real quick. We got another panel that was recorded a couple weeks ago at the Athol Comic Book Fest. This is a show me and Johnny frequent a lot. Our buddy, our co-host Harry came down for the day and then filmed me and Johnny when we were a part of a panel. Now, the sound quality seems good, so I probably won't subtitle it. But you know, check it out. Now, the one thing I should explain that the Athol Comic Book Fest is a show that's a library show. It's a one-day show, and the way they do the panels is kind of interesting. It's all in the same room as the convention. So we were up on a stage being asked questions, but the convention was kind of going on. So a few people paying attention, but nothing, everyone's kind of shopping. So it was kind of a weird situation. I kind of hope they figured something out for that later on, like maybe another room or something for the panels. But it's still good. So we got some good material here. It was just an indie creator panel, just talking about questions about creating and things like that. So it's a good one. And the panel, we had me, Johnny, we had Chris from Hero Shack, and we also had Gary Henderson, and Mike Wagner was the moderator. So it was a good show, good panel. And we had it's a bunch of friends just kind of talking and having a good time. But yeah, so check it out. All right. Yeah, so me and Johnny are about to do a panel for Comic Book Fest, so stay tuned. Join us. Yeah.
Okay, welcome to panel number 2 of the day. And this is going to be an entertaining one, folks. Look at these guys. All brothers in arms up here, I swear. Okay, you got the brief introduction. Now let's let them introduce themselves and let you know what they're doing and what they're working on. I tell you guys, this is going to be interesting. Gary, want to start off?
Good afternoon. I'm Gary Henderson. I'm the creator of the Pyramid Knights, and I'm the writer. And I'm very glad to be here. I thank Chris and his wife Diane to invite us here. It looks like a great show, and I hope everyone's having a good time.
I am Chris, and I'm just glad to be here with everybody. Wow, helps if you hold it closer to your lips. I'm just here to celebrate comics and what we're doing, everybody here. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask now or later. I'm going to pass it on to Keith.
Hey, I'm Keith Gleason. I am the host of Indie Comics Relay, creator of Mighty Mascots, and promoter for Plastic City Comic Con. Thanks to these guys for inviting us to the show. We love doing this Comic Con every year. And Gary, all these guys are awesome creators, so check them out. And turning it over to my good co-host and friend here.
I don't need that. I don't need that. What's up, Athol Comic Fest? Yeah! How are you guys feeling today? Yeah! I want the people next door to wonder what's going on in this room. So on the count of 3, can I get as loud as you guys can be? Just to scream at the top of your lungs. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Saturday. Yeah.
Of course, Johnny C. Okay, we're going to start off. The same question we started off last time. Was there a turning point that made you want to get into comics? And what was it? Was it an issue of a certain comic? Was it an event in your life? What made you want to create comics?
Well, what made me want to create comics is I picked up my first comic. It was, I think, Iron Man number 94. And I thought the colors and everything in it were fabulous. And I'm like, I would love to do this. So I started making my own comics for like the Sunday papers. I would draw it on a piece of paper, I would cut the little panels out, I would paste them on the Boston Globe front of it, and pretend that I'm actually, you know, a contributor to the comic section of the Boston Globe, and that's how I started. Next is I've always been interested in the mysteries of the pyramids and different deities that represent ancient Egypt, and so a lot of that is in my comics. Not based on that, but there is a lot of things like that related to the characters in my comics. Also time travel, space, spaceships, science fiction, adventure, everything you can think of is in my book. And I would like to thank Chris again. He also influenced me and everyone here in the panel, because we all do indie comics, and indie comics is the way to go. It's the most creative and energetic kind of venue that's out there. So thanks again.
So just real quick, I got into comics because of the Sunday Fun Days, if you guys know what that is, or Funnies, I think they were called. Just comic strips, that was all it was, and I found that I could draw a little, and that made me want to draw more, and one thing led to another. Comics was just the best way to do my art, because I could tell stories beyond just one picture. And really, that's it. I'm just going to keep that short.
Actually, a lot of similarities too. Like I started with comic strips and Saturday morning cartoons, and then I think when I read Spider-Man was my first. I can do a long. I could do more than 3 panels. That was kind of my introduction to comics. But I still love comic strips. I don't know about you guys, but I still love those almost as much as comic books. So I would say my earliest was either Garfield or Peanuts. And then my first comic that got me into the comic book stuff was Spider-Man and Moon Knight. So it was one of my first, right over this guy.
So for comics, I think, no matter what for comics, I think we're always comic adjacent. Growing up, there's always something comic book related in our orbit. I can think back to being a kid in the Incredible Hulk TV series. That was comic books on a weekly basis out there, right? So yes, Hulk! Always adjacent to comic books. So therefore, it's a matter of, do you take that next step? Do you go further into it? And on our show with Keith and I that we do bi-weekly on Monday nights on YouTube, when we ask this same question to our guests, more often than not, it's like, Batman the Animated Series or X-Men, the cartoon, all that stuff brought people into comics. And I think really those are general answers that people give because that's our generation. But I think, like I said before, we're always comics adjacent. And it's just a matter of whether you take that next step into it.
Good question. Thank you, Mike. Okay, along those same notes, you've all had your first experiences. Who were the major influences and what creators come out in your work the most?
Well, for artists and writers, I would say my greatest influences are back in the 70s and 80s, like John Byrne, or in his artwork, especially his work on the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Chris Claremont, obviously, for writing. And there's so many different artists out there in Marvel land, DC land that I look up to, but I must say John Byrne was probably my favorite artist that influenced me in storytelling, characterizations, body language, emotions that they show in each panel that he draws. So that's what I would say is John Byrne mostly.
So my favorite artist, my favorite writer, my favorite inspiration is also John Byrne. I'm sitting here squirming because he's talking about, but really, If you don't know about comics from the 80s, John Byrne was like the king in my opinion. And highly recommend you check him out. He did everything from Man of Steel, where Superman literally died. I think that was his art. And he did the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all sorts of books. But yeah, his style comes down to almost a shorthand of art that has never been surpassed, in my opinion. And now I'm gonna give it to Keith again.
Short and sweet. Yeah. I mean, the popular answer is like Jack Kirby, right? But I would say that's later in life for me, like when I finally appreciated Kirby. But for me, early influence is probably Charles Schultz and Jim Davis and all those guys that still kind of come out in my work. I think that and like Saturday morning cartoons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Peter Laird, Kevin Eastman, specifically with Mighty Mascots, they're a huge influence on that. And in comics, I mean, I grew up with McFarlane and all those Image guys. I don't think they come out in my work, but like, you know, you gotta acknowledge that they were popular at the time. But also now that I love Jack Kirby, like I feel like he's coming into my comics a lot as far as like fights and like character designs and dynamic like scenes and you know just things like that. So, but yeah, I mean I could name a ton, but that's probably my major ones.
So for me specifically, I'm a child of the 90s. So 90s comics, it's a very specific era. A lot of pouches, a lot of big guns, a lot of shoulder pads. Very extreme. It's like reading an issue of a 90s comic book, it's like drinking a 2-liter of Mountain Dew. Sometimes it isn't good for you, but it's fun throughout the process. Anyway, I digress.
Jolt Cola.
Jolt Cola, the heart stopper. And that's not just on you, Mike. I was just going to say, so in terms of the influence, oh my heart! In terms of influence, when you could point to things that I enjoyed growing up, like I look at Chris Claremont as a writer, and his stuff on X-Men is just amazing. I could never fathom to be as good as that, whether I might eventually be or not because of that. But there's things that kind of influence me where you can look at Surrounded by Death, you can look at The Pond, you can look at the works on my table, and I would say that I took more influence from people like Mark Millar or Garth Ennis, people who did like edgier books that left you with like a certain feeling, a certain kind of way. After you finish your book, you're like, ooh, I feel a little dirty, but that was really enjoyable. Like that kind of writing, that kind of style, I think that's what I gravitated towards the most. And as far as a reflection of my work.
Okay, I've heard Claremont mentioned a few times, and I have a love-hate relationship with Claremont. While I love his stories, I felt so sorry for Tom Wachowski to let her down. You see how much dialogue he throws into her page.
Mike, closer and keep hearing you.
You can not.
There you go.
Okay. Alright, I told y'all guys this is gonna be crazy.
Who says we don't have fun?
Always, baby, always. Okay. All the guys up here have been doing this for quite a while. Gary, you're up to issue 10? You're up to issue 10 of the series now? 15. I lost track somewhere. I know Chris has done so many. You know, 9 with 10 going on. Johnny's done a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you've got multiple series.
Well, I've got 3 different titles that all have varying degrees of 2 to 3 issues apiece.
My point is, in an era where we see creators come and go, we're online, we're on social media, we see guys jump into it, you know, think they're gonna have the next big thing and the next big hot book. They get one issue out and they realize this is work. And we never see an issue 2. We never see anything forward because it's too much for them. How do you guys keep molding yourself and keep going and producing more books when we've seen so many people fall by the wayside and just give up?
Well, I keep going in this series because there's so much story to tell. So many adventures that the characters are going on that leads them to another story, another book, another arch enemy, another situation they're in that they can't get out of, so I gotta figure out how to get them out of those situations. Plus I know the characters very well now, and I know each one of them are talking to me. I know it seems kind of psychotic, but but they're all talking to me and telling me, hey, you know, let's keep this going. You know, we love how you're writing us. We love how you're, giving us the opportunity to be part of your creative nature and be part of the story you're telling, which you can share with everybody who looks at your books and buys your books. And I have created a fan base where people always text me or message me, hey, when's the next book come out, you know? And I feel sometimes I don't get the book out fast enough, but I try, you know, 3 months maybe to get a book out. I know it's not real fast, but it's not too bad. But anyways, I just feel like I'm just going to keep going until I have no more story to tell, or if I get struck by lightning, either or. So that's why I keep going.
Okay, so the question is, how do I keep making books? Like, people going beyond issue 1, 2, or whatever. But for me, the books are kind of like secondary to the actual creation of them. It doesn't matter if I'm going to publish or not. I'm drawing something. I'm working on something. Comics just make it so you can turn it into a story. But if you were to come and tell me I could never publish again, I'd still be drawing somewhere, somehow. So for me, it's not been so much a struggle as just kind of like hair grows. Books, they grow.
For me, it's like, I love comics. Like, I can't picture myself doing anything but. So, like, it's all I know. Like, it's all I want to know. Like, like even when I was a little kid. What's that?
Too dumb to quit.
I can't, yeah. Like, I would just start up again. Even if I quit, I would just start up again in a couple months because I wouldn't be able to stop. So, I'll be making, on my deathbed, I'll be making comics. So, it's just something when I was a little kid, I really wanted to do, and it just stayed with me. You know, yeah, it was comic strips, but now it's comic books. So.
Comics can be a struggle. It can be hard to make books. Depends on what your situation is. I envy those who can write and illustrate their comics, because then at that point you're waiting on no one but yourself. That's not to say that you won't wait on yourself for certain things, because you know we can run into those roadblocks. But in my circumstance, I'm a writer and I'm a producer, so I can only move as fast as my illustrator, and that can be challenging at times too. But like for me, I always have to stay creative. I always have to stay active. If I didn't find comics, I'd probably be in silver bracelets somewhere, and I don't look good in silver bracelets. So I think comics can be quite life-saving in some ways. It's a creative outlet. It gives you perspective, and it allows you to be able to put something out in the world that will outlast you.
And the most common thing to take from that is we're all crazy and we love to make books.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
We're also in an era where Kickstarter. Most of you guys do not do Kickstarter. You keep pushing your books, any form of fashion. You believe in yourself enough to keep making the next issue and to keep going without giving up with the Kickstarter phase. We've seen it all. We're on social media. We've seen these creators just give up completely and leave the market and leave the field because their first Kickstarter failed. So I commend you guys, a big round of applause for continuing what you're doing. And now I have some individual questions for each of you. Yeah, it's in Pyramid Nights, you use a lot of Egyptian motifs. Is there what draws you to doing that? Was there any particular turning point, or is this something that's fascinating you to incorporate that into your story?
Well, I use a lot of the pyramids and ancient Egyptian backgrounds and themes because there's a lot of mystery between ancient Egypt and the pyramids from the ancient Egyptians using time travel to creating the first ancient spaceships or even electricity or having power tools to create the pyramids. There's a mystery to how the pyramids were created. Nobody knows how it is. So in my book, I play with that mystery a lot. And I use my own thoughts on how these things were created and done. So that's pretty much why my books are based on, that kind of mystery. And also the speed of light, the numbers in that, the number pi, the greatest number, all those mathematical stuff is fascinating too. That is part of the mystery, and that's about it.
Okay, Chris. With your title, The Great Cyclopean, I definitely see that John Byrne influence, and it's a very unique character design. How did you come up with it, and what was your process to create something that unusual, and is there any particular reason it's just a big eye for it?
So that's an interesting question because that character was made when I was really young. From what I remember, he was influenced by the one-eyed elephant in Space Harrier. On the title page, he was just a one-eyed creature. I needed a supervillain, so I created a one-eyed monster who eventually became the Cyclopean. Now, 5 or 6 years ago when I started making comics again, I went back to my original characters and revived him. The thing about him is, because he has no ears and no mouth, he became a deaf, mute superhero, which threw a whole new dimension into the storytelling. Because when he was a kid's idea, he was telepathic. He could just read minds. And he ended up adopting those, what we would consider disabilities, but they're actually enhancements to his character, because he's no longer just an overpowered character. He actually has weaknesses. So really, it was just trying to be unique and having the influences of video games, And I guess that's kind of like a tale to be told, is that you can get inspiration from anywhere. It doesn't have to be comics or shows or video games, but it can be any of those things. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for touching upon the deaf mute, because I was going to hit you up with that also, but thank you. Now on the key. The Mighty Mascots. What can I say? We all grew up during the era, cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, getting loaded up with some good sugar smacks and some Captain Crunch. And we were inundated with all those characters. And what led you to do your own book based on those characters, or at least variations of the legacy characters? It's not a superhero book. It's different. It's got its own vibe and its own story. Yeah. What led you to do that? And I know you love the cereals, so let's touch upon that too.
It's a what? What did you say? You love a cereal. Oh yeah. Well, it actually was inspired by a T-shirt. Oddly enough, my wife had bought me a T-shirt that had all the cereal mascots on it, and it said. God, I forget what it said. I don't know. It said something funny, cheeky. It was like one of those reject shirts, you know, those t-shirts. But I was looking at it one day while I was brushing my teeth, and I was like, there's something there. Like, why are these guys all hanging out? Like, when I envisioned the comic, it was more like I was looking at a reality show. Like, what if all these serial mascots lived in a house together, you know? Like, I saw it as a comedy at first. Yeah, like a Big Brother thing. And then when I started thinking about them as superheroes, that's when it clicked in my head, you know? Like if you take Captain Crunch and tweak them just a little bit, you got like a Batman type character, you know? Or you know, you just name any, like the bear, like you got the Hulk, you know? So it was like more of like just taking serial mascots that I like and try to tweak them into my own versions, but also to have my versions stand on their own as their own characters. So that's part of the fun for me, is when I create villains and new characters for the team, is that, you know? So yeah, pretty much it. So, oh my God. What's your question for Johnny?
Stand over here.
Johnny C.
Maybe.
My question for you.
Please.
We all know about Surrounded by Death as a post-apocalyptic story. But for community, what made you decide to do a Western book?
Oh.
They are so out of vogue, you did not select few of us that are really interested. So what made you decide to use that character and bring it back?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. So yeah, Spaghetti Western Comics, Sartana. It's based on a pre-existing character from an old series of spaghetti Western films. And part of what inspired me to make that book is that I like just spaghetti Westerns as a genre. Cowboys, gunslingers, body houses, all that stuff. So I actually creatively, I was in film. I did music videos, I did short movies, I did webisodes, things like that. And in my heart, I wanted to do like a spaghetti Western film. But in case you haven't noticed, we live in Massachusetts. Unless I go to maybe Sturbridge Village, I don't have a lot of great shooting locations. But at the time, I was also discovering that I could write comics and make comics, and you know, it didn't have to be a film project. And that's kind of where I took Sartana, which is this pre-existing character that was really cool, like the James Bond of the Old West, and kind of make it my own the same way Quentin Tarantino took Django and made it his own. So that's kind of where Sartana came from. But more specifically, I grew up watching spaghetti westerns with my grandfather and my father. So in honoring them, I created this. And I think it was just a way to kind of bring me closer to them, even when they're not, you know, when my grandfather's not here anymore, you know?
And I have to say, I had to listen to some Marcioni when I was reading it.
Yeah. Great soundtracks on that. Great soundtracks.
Okay, that comes that up. Let's get some party words and let us know what's coming out and what's new.
So, first I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you guys all for taking time out of your day to come hang out with us. I think that's amazing. Thank you to Hero Shack and the Athol Public Library for putting this all together. I think that's fantastic. My name's Johnny C. You can see me next this Monday night on YouTube with my good colleague here, my good friend Keith Gleason. His show, Indie Comics Relay, that we all do together. Our show. It's more his show, but it's our show. We're going to be on Monday night with the great Nandor Fox and Tanner Ogle. Tanner and Travis Ogle. So we'll be doing that. You can see me there. And then just keep an eye out on my social medias. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at JohnnyC138. And I'll be probably launching a new campaign for a comic early into next year. So keep an eye out for that.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, like Johnny said, YouTube channel is called Indie Comics Relay. We go live every other Monday night, sometimes weekly, and we do a show talking to indie comics and celebrating indie comics. And our third co-host right here filming, Carrie. joins us as well. But yeah, check that out. And then also, if you go to heroenvy.com, you can pick up all my links for social media, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything, you know. So,
Oh, one more thing. More immediately, you can find me after this panel taking a photo with the princesses over there. I love princesses.
So I would also like to thank everybody for being here. Especially want to thank Emily and Robin who put this thing together. Basically, way better than I could have done alone, and my wife also helped. But yeah, thank you guys. Take advantage of the creators here. You don't often get a chance to talk to us as openly as you can here. We still have a few hours left, so just feel free to cozy on up and check everybody out. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank everyone for being here also on this great panel. This is the executive panel, by the way. And I'd like to thank you everyone who's picked up my books today and trying something new. Appreciate that. I hope they like it. I hope they continue to enjoy the series. I'm never going to stop. I'm going to keep going. And, right now I'm offering 15 books for $25. So just let me know. Try it out. Check it out. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy your day and have a good week.
And more importantly, big round of applause for the host with the most, Michael Wagner.
Thank you, Johnny K. Thank you guys. It was a pleasure, as always. Love y'all. You guys are good to see you.
thanks guys for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys.